All right. Hello, 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 everyone. Marz and Melissa here with Uncharted Conversations. I believe this is episode 5. And we are going to discuss today Roe versus Wade and the different things that are happening with the overturning of that. So I'm here with my partner, Melissa, and we're also here with Jeffrey, who is one of our awesome peers. He is one of the other spokesmodels that I work with. And so we just wanted to get together really and have a conversation on this because we found ourselves really talking about it within our own individual groups. And we decided that we needed to bring this to everyone. So here we are. We're going to get started. Babe, do you have anything else you want to add before we dive in?
No, I just want Jeffrey to take a minute to introduce himself.
Yes.
I am Jeffery. I am with the HIV Stops With Me campaign. I'm an advocate. I'm an advocate for HIV, but I'm an advocate for anyone who needs somebody to fight for them. I mean, there are many, many battles that we're fighting in this world. So whomever needs it the most is where I lean towards. Right now, women's reproductive rights is where, that's really being jeopardized. And we just need to figure out what we're going to do from here, because not only is women's rights in jeopardy, but other rights that we've already gained. So basically, I'm an advocate, an activist, and I care about humanity and equality. So that's my introduction.
We are so happy to have you.
Thank you.
I wish it was under better circumstances and a more positive conversation, but I feel like these deep-rooted conversations are absolutely vital. We need to come together. We need to come together in solidarity. We need to unify. And the first way that we go about doing that is having these conversations and realizing there are more like-minded people out there than we realize. Some people just are afraid to voice those thoughts. So we're here today with Jeffrey to put it all out on the table and kind of talk about what this is going to look like going forward.
Well, you know that 70% of Americans, all Americans, men and women included, 70% are against this. They are against this overturn. Technically, I guess it's not an overturn. We don't got nothing to do with it. That's what they said. We got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, they did. They basically washed their hands of it and said, okay, it's up to the states now. We're washing our hands of it. And that leaves a lot of people feeling very afraid because it's like, okay, well, if now there's this, what's next? If now you're telling a woman what they can do with their body and what they can't do with their body, and you're going to charge them with felonies for those things, like what is next?
And if 70% of people disagree with it, then how is it that they're still doing it? Like that's the vast majority of people disagreeing, and yet it's still happening.
Yeah,
that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's exactly how Trump won. The popular vote went to Hillary by more than a landslide, but we still had him in office. It's kind of like this kind of system is broken, and no one is. I guess what I've seen, and you mentioned that having these conversations is where it starts for us to make a difference and a change. Because what we've seen is a lot of outrage, a lot of passionate people coming out in defense, but no concrete organization. There's no logic. There's a lot of passion, which is wonderful. Passion is great.
Yeah.
I mean, like, we're good for it because we are passionate about these rights and, our lives. But now we have to apply logic, because logic is going to win the argument. And unless we apply logic, we're lost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And us talking about it all day, it's great that, we're talking about it all day. And, it's wonderful that we're coming together to have those conversations, but then there has to be forward movement. If there's no forward movement, then it's just talk. Talk is great. Like you said, Jeffrey, that's fantastic. You have to have a foundation, right? So it's got to start somewhere, but then from there, it has to go somewhere. just sitting in the talking phase isn't doing what it needs to do to be able to give forward movement to make all this shit just go away. Because right now, like I literally woke up this morning like, what the fuck? I woke up yesterday morning and I was like, what the fuck?
Yes.
You know?
Everyone's just bitching about it. Thank God you cursed, because I was just about to say bitching. I didn't know the rules yet.
You're fine.
You know, words fly out of my mouth. But you know, everyone's bitching about it. But who's saying let's organize? Let's the pro-choice movement. How do we get in touch with those organizers? Because one thing that I have to say, I've been watching both sides of the argument. Of course, you have to see what your opponent's doing. One of the things that I've seen is that the pro-life movement, which we can all disagree that it's not really pro-life, it's pro-birth. It's
Yes.
pro-birth.
Regardless,
Because they don't really care about lives. If they did care about lives, they would not allow the gun control laws that just passed to be passed. But that's just hypocrisy on top of hypocrisy. So let's just say, one of the things that I have to admire about them, they've been a one-track mind, and they have not veered or wavered from that one-track mind whatsoever. I mean, in 50 years, they've all one-track mind, one message, one-track mind. And when they organize and they come out, they go out in droves. Not one or two, all of them unite. So we need to also learn from our opponent, because this is how they were able to do what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And being the minority in doing what they've done, which is quite, yeah. We need to organize ourselves and get ourselves going, because what basically I saw, I was looking for why they retracted with Roe versus Wade, and I was just like, nobody's giving me a reason. All these, and then finally at the very end, they just said, oh no, they just turned the duty. They said this is not a federal, at the federal level, this is not our jurisdiction. This is at the state level. So my question is, what did Roe do in order to bring it up to the Supreme Court? What was it that that fueled it all the way up to the Supreme Court?
Action and passion. There was forward movement and action and passion. I feel that, and this is probably going to be a little controversial, but that's just kind of how I roll. I feel that when us as a gay community and us as women, when we got to a point where we felt like we were equal, we stopped trying to fight. We got complacent. We got still, and we got lazy with what we were doing, and we stopped fighting and we stopped pushing, because we're like, okay, well, we're good now. We can vote and we can, choose what we want to do with our bodies, and equal pay is almost there. So I think we're good now. Same with people that are in the LGBTQ community. Oh, well, gay marriage is legal now, and I can't get fired from my job for being gay. So, I think things are good. I think we're good now, but we're not though. We're not though. You're looking through rose-colored glasses. We're not good. This is not good. Look how fast things turned around because people got lazy and complacent. And now you have women that are pregnant with babies and with fetuses that the doctors know this baby is going to die and suffer soon after it's born. But you mean to tell me that pregnant person can't choose to put that child out of its suffering?
Well,
No.
imagine this. It's not only that child out of suffering. What about the couple that cannot conceive naturally because of these? You cannot do these stem cells or whatever. You cannot have them outside the body. Basically, they have to go from one body to another, and that's the way God said. That's the way the Bible said, and that's the way it's got to be done. So we cannot do it in a petri dish, because there's some that are not going to become, that are viable, but we don't need them because we are just going to put one viable one inside of her, so the other one's going to get discarded. We can't do that, apparently. So someone they cannot do these. It's all reproductive rights. It's not just for the ones who are pregnant, who are able to.
I know.
remove the passion, remove the passion. Let's get back to the logic.
It's hard. It's hard in situations like this because this is not something small. This is not like a parking ticket or, you know, this is someone's body and life and them getting up in the morning and not being able to control what happens to it. Over 32,000 pregnancies every year are due to rape. We already have over 400,000 kids in the foster care system right now. So you mean to tell me we're going to add another 32,000 plus every year? Where are these kids going to go? Who's going to fund them? Who's going to feed them? Who's going to care for them? No, they're not going to be cared for. They're going to be set aside or put in foster care systems and homes where they're just in it for a check, where there's more physical violence and rape and incest that then causes more pregnancy. And I'm like, what the fuck? Are you not seeing this domino effect happening?
Well, the domino effect that's happening is what they're doing. Well, let's just kind of like break this down. Because the system was created to support itself. More people are doing, let's call it spade a spade. More people in the Black and brown communities are doing better at sustaining themselves, at taking care of themselves. So now we're losing a big bracket of individuals who were filling in jobs that no one else had to do. So those 32,000 that are going to be, all of that, they're going to fill in that gap because that's the only job that they can possibly fill because they're so tormented. You know what I mean? That's where that is, because the ones at the top need to maintain the balance and the equilibrium of every single level down below. So let's call it spade. It all comes down to economics. Let's just put it that way.
Well, it does, 100%. And if you think about, you know, the percentage of people of, you know, Black and brown children that are in the system right now, a majority of them are people of color.
Yeah.
You know, so you could just keep thinking about those numbers keep increasing more and more and more. That's more Black and brown people in the system not being able to succeed and grow because they're not given the avenue to be able to do so. And exactly. That seems like more and more oppression, more and more oppression.
Systemic racism.
It's systemic racism at its finest, and it's absolutely disgusting.
Well,
I agree.
I just want to go with some numbers here because Black women are the highest percentage of women that would die at birth.
Yes.
They have the highest mortality rate at giving labor, just birthing a child. They're the highest. Yes. And oftentimes they don't discover these issues up until the second or into the third trimester where they need to. And it's just a very tough decision to grow and to be nurturing this child. I know I had my sisters that were pregnant. I was there. And you know how much we hug their bellies in anticipation of this new child. So it is a very hard decision that a mother has to make to terminate it, but she's doing it for the greater good of the child. She's not doing it for selfish reasons.
Exactly.
Everyone thinks, oh, she wants a career, she wants this. No. She wants to give that child the best opportunity because we all know what the world is like when you have obstacles. We already have enough obstacles in our way. If you're going to put more obstacles in their path, we want to give our children the best chance to move forward and grow. But that's exactly what they're trying to work those efforts to take away those. Yeah, you're doing better. You're more educated. You're this. You're that. Okay, you're getting smarter. You're learning how to manage your money, which we were never taught how to manage our money. But more and more people of color are learning how to manage their finances, the economy, all of that good stuff. Mm-hmm. But now it's time to take away something. And I know that we're not just talking about minorities because it's all women. I mean, all women in general. I mean, we also have indigent, white people. In all classifications, we have people with limited resources that cannot travel the distance. And now they're looking at restricting apps, restricting searches. So we're gonna be like, I mean, like, come on, like Baghdad, like those Middle Eastern countries that you can't go onto certain websites because it's banned on your state.
Yeah.
I mean, like, where are we moving to?
B. You have Plan B as an option, but Plan B loses its efficacy every time you use it. So every time you use a Plan B pill, it works less and less. And then what you're going to run into is you're going to run into people that end up getting pregnant. They're not able to get abortions. So they physically harm themselves in one way or another, either trying to abort the fetus on their own or putting them, causing their own life to be over because they can't imagine, going through childbirth or having a child. This is huge.
Well, thank God that you mentioned Plan. No, I didn't want. Okay, I didn't want to get religious here, but my beliefs are my beliefs, and I'm still, yes, I do believe in God, and I trust me, but I still believe that every woman has a right to choose her life. All right, and I am not here to judge anyone. My God doesn't judge me. But you mentioned Plan B. Mm-hmm. There is a Plan C, which I learned that I didn't know there was a Plan C. There is a pill that will terminate pregnancy up to 10 weeks of in gestation, but they're also trying to ban those pills from being mailed to those individuals. I found this out. They tried to mail these pills like placebo. They just mailed some. I think there were some beans that they mailed, and some were intersected and some weren't intersected. So it's like you might get it by the 10 weeks, you might not get it. So it's just like they're just trying to chop all your avenues and all your choices. I don't want to joke here, but it's like for their daughter Susie, not to have sex until she's married.
Yeah. Abstain.
To regulate when you have your period, because you know how our phones track our menstrual cycles. So it's like they're gonna follow that, and if you miss your period, then you're suspected of having a pregnancy. And women miss their periods all the time. My sister Joanna, who, God rest her soul, she always had an irregular period. She would get it 3 months consecutively, then 4 months without it. It's like, so she would have been suspected of a pregnancy and aborting that pregnancy. So according to what they're trying to do, she would actually be incarcerated until they discover that she did not abort or something like it. I don't know how they're going to test that she didn't abort on her own, but how?
That's the point, right?
Next.
That's the point. Is they're going to be accused, and then there's no way to prove
whether you did
there's
or
no
not.
way to prove their innocence. How is that? How is that fair?
You know what I mean? And women have miscarriages all the time. So this is like, it's so twisted. It's like, where's the rhyme or the reason? Well, when I don't find rhyme or reason, I turn to some of the facts. These people.
So if it's okay, I want to take a minute to, there's this post that's circulating around Facebook that I'm sure probably numerous people have seen, but I actually just want to read it real quick, just because it really sets the tone for my stance, and I'm pretty sure the stances of those of us in this meeting right here, but it puts perspective to this whole thing, and I'm hoping that it really has circulated enough to really make people think. So it starts off with, I'm not pro murdering babies. I'm pro Becky, who found out at her 20-week anatomy scan that the infant she had been so excited to bring into this world had developed without life-sustaining organs. I'm pro Susan, who was sexually assaulted on her way home from work, only to come to the horrific realization that her assailant planted his seed in her when she got a positive pregnancy test a month later. I'm pro Teresa, who hemorrhaged due to the placental abruption, causing her parents, spouse, and children to have to make the impossible decision on whether or not to save her or her unborn child. I'm pro Kathy, who had her innocence ripped away from her by someone she should have been able to trust, and her 11-year-old body isn't mature enough to bear the consequence of that betrayal. I'm pro Melissa's who's working 2 jobs to make ends meet and has to choose between bringing her child into poverty or feeding the children she already has because her spouse walked out on her. I'm pro Brittany, who realizes that she in no way financially, emotionally, or physically is able to raise a child. I'm pro Emily, who went through IVF, ending up with 6 viable implanted eggs, requiring selective reduction to ensure the safety of her and a safe number of fetuses. I'm pro Jessica, who is finally getting the strength to get away from her physically abusive spouse, only to find out she is carrying a monster's child. I'm pro Vanessa, who went into her confirmation appointment after years of trying to conceive, only to hear silence where there should have been a heartbeat. I'm pro Lindsay, who lost her virginity in her sophomore year with a broken condom and now has to choose whether to be a teenage mom or just a teenager. And I'm pro Courtney, who found out she's already 13 weeks along, but the egg never made it out of her fallopian tube, so she either terminates the pregnancy or risks dying from internal bleeding. You can argue and say that I'm pro-choice all you want, but the truth is I'm pro-life, their lives, women's lives. You don't get to pick and choose which scenarios should be accepted. It's not about which stories you don't agree with. It's about fighting for the women and the stories that you do agree with and the choice that was made. Women's rights are meant to protect all women, regardless of their situation. Overturning Roe does not stop abortions. It stops safe abortions. Abortion is healthcare. So I know this, post is pretty controversial to some, but I felt like it really, for me at least, described my feelings and how I view this, this issue. So I just wanted to take a chance to kind of read that. Thank you for letting me read that.
No, thank you for reading that, because that is exactly what we're talking about here, is that to every single scenario or to every abortion, there is a story behind that abortion. There isn't like, I got pregnant, I'm just gonna pop it out. It wasn't that way. And there are men who are known to poke holes into their condoms because they want to germinate as many of their clone copies of themselves as there are possible.
And that's why they advocate actually for the insertion condoms, what are also known as the female condoms, because you can put them in up to 8 hours before you go out to your sexual activities and things like that. But it's the one way for a woman to take back control and say, doesn't matter if you poked holes in it, I'm protecting myself for me.
Yes. Which is a good thing.
That's something that is rarely talked about in any sex ed class.
No, there is there's a large percentage of men
put on a penis, but you don't talk about female condoms. You don't talk about internal condoms. You don't talk about finger condoms. Like, you don't talk about those things. And
because it's not allowed, because I'm supposed to teach this at home to my child, not at school. So I guess I'm going back to my original question. The Supreme Court put this back onto the state. Every state has a Supreme Court. So we need, I'm deducing that the only way for those states that have these restrictive laws, we need to present a convincing argument at the state level to have the Supreme Court of that state to change the laws in each individual state. All it takes is for one state to have done it successfully, for the other ones to follow suit.
And a couple of them already have. Texas was one of the first ones. Okay. It's already starting. And that's what is so fucking scary, is how fast this is happening, how quickly things are changing.
Things are changing. So we need to go back to the Supreme Court. We need a case to go back to the Supreme Court where the abortion is necessary, and you have to change the laws. because you cannot have a blanket law that encompasses everyone. I believe that our biggest fight is going to be supporting whatever state brings it up to the Supreme Court, because every state's going to have to bring a case up to the Supreme Court justifying why abortion is needed in this scenario, and your laws have to be modified or changed. And I believe it is our duty that if it means traveling over there and advocating and fighting for that individual, or when they say send out letters, right, or make that phone call, it's going to be our responsibility to be that organized to say, I'm going to take 5 minutes out of my day. I know I have a busy day at work. I'm going to take 5 minutes to type up this email. You know what I mean? And even for the organizers to say, here is a template. Add whatever you want to it around it, but here's a template for you. Just send this out.
Yes.
But you know what I mean? This is what the kind of like, we have to take that passion and then start organizing it into mechanical things.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, I agree. And someone has to begin to facilitate that process. And I know, like, you know, my kids, so I have twins, they're 18 years old. And the day after all of this happened, their friends were already talking about going to a protest. You know, people are already starting to work. It's like the second it happened, it's almost like everything started shifting. And, you know, I was talking to my kids and they're like, do you think that this would cause, you know, this could possibly cause another civil war?
Absolutely.
And I feel that it absolutely could. And that is scary as hell.
Well, we have the trifecta going on right here.
Yeah.
We have the perfect trifecta. We have LGBTQ, women's rights, Black Lives Matter. The perfect trifecta. All we need is just a little bit of fire and it will ignite this bitch up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We are already in very dangerous grounds already. We've never seen this kind of like fighting in our, you know, we haven't seen what just happened over there and over by Russia and what you call it?
Ukraine.
In Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna see it here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And everything is turning and changing. And meanwhile, you know, my kids are getting ready to go off to college and the world just got a lot scarier. So I was already afraid, even them just being men, they're men of color. So, you know, this whole thing is getting ready to shift. This whole paradigm is shifting. And now I have, you know, I was already afraid of them going anywhere and being a person of color, but now I'm even more afraid because they're going to be hours away from home and I can't just save them. You know, this is scary. We've got to do something. Something's got to give.
We've got to do there's a lot of things that we've got to do. One of the other things that I saw from the opposing side, they already have grassroots of younger people starting their campaigning to enlist more people for their pro-life whatever movement that in the colleges and everything like it. So it's like we, again, going back to your statement, we got the right and we got comfortable, complacent, and stop fighting. Stop saying that this is a right that we need to protect. This is a right that we need to keep saying that until the other voice quieted down. But the other voice just got louder and louder, and we were just like, whatever, keep yelling. You can't do nothing. It's already at the Supreme Court. No, the Supreme Court found the one loophole. This is not our responsibility.
And that's the frustrating thing is people thought everything was going to be okay and it's not. So now that we're fighting, we need to stop. We need to not stop fighting. We need to keep fighting. We need to maintain. Once we get to the level that we need to be at and deserve to be at, we need to continue to maintain. It's kind of like, you know, when you lose a lot of weight, right? You lose a lot of weight, but then you get to a place where you have to maintain that weight.
Yes.
And that maintaining can be harder than the losing.
Yes.
Because it takes a lot more energy and a lot more effort to continue that fight and that struggle. But that's the part that's the most important, is the maintaining and the follow through. And that's the part that we're lacking. And
absolutely.
This is where we're at now.
Well, I think
it's like absurd. We think getting to the top is easy. Anybody can get to the top. Staying at the top, now that requires work, discipline. That requires a daily maintenance, like you said, maintaining it. We did not maintain it. We did not enlist the lobbyists, the congressmen, congresswomen that would fight, that would maintain those rights. That, you know what I mean? We look at one aspect and we're like, oh yeah, Hillary's not for this or not for that. But overall, does she cover 70%? Does the person who's running for Congress cover 70% of all your rights? Don't look at that one thing that he voted against or she voted against. Look at the whole picture. It's like we are so micro in our thinking that we missed the macro version of everything. And this is why we've lost this fight. Well, we've lost this battle. We haven't lost the war.
Yes, it's that tunnel vision. It's that tunnel vision. And to be, fully transparent with, both of you and all of our listeners, I am a survivor of rape. I'm a survivor of sexual assault, more than once. I cannot imagine having gotten pregnant in those situations and having to bring that individual into the world, knowing the energy that they were conceived in. Being a mother, being a parent, not just a mother, but being a parent, I know that connection. I know what your body goes through when you're pregnant. I know how many health problems can arise from pregnancy. I know all of it, being a doula for 15 years. I know all of those things. So you mean to tell me that I have to endure trauma associated with someone physically penetrating me, holding me down, raping me, and beating me? Then I get pregnant, and you tell me that I have to then bring that child into the world? Why?
And where am I going to find the love to give to that child when it's a reminder, it's a constant reminder and a constant trigger of that memory?
Exactly.
So you want me to relive this trauma every single day? So my mental health is none of your concern.
So then mental health starts to suffer. And then you start dealing with people that are dealing with more postpartum depression and psychosis, which is going to create more people getting harmed. There is such a huge domino effect, and this impacts so many individuals. This impacts the other children that these individuals have that are going through postpartum depression and psychosis. So now their lives are in jeopardy. Their partners are in jeopardy. People on the road are in jeopardy if these individuals are driving. People are not taking that all into account. And I'm scared for what's going to happen next.
It's like it's almost like this is my opinion, right? It almost feels like they're purposely putting us in uproar. Just like with the Black Lives Matter movement, you know what I mean? Like it's like they're purposely throwing wrenches, purposely throwing things in the fire in a certain sense to make it, make us uproar and make us more angry and mad. And it almost feels like, all right, so the Black Lives Matter movement obviously still going, but it's not as prevalent as it was, a summer or two ago.
You're right.
So now they're like, oh, people are settling in. Let's give it feels like they're like, all right, now let's give them something else to be mad about. And it's almost like they're sending us in uproar so that they have a reason to control us. That's how I feel.
Poking the bear, taking things away. Yeah.
But in this case, they're poking the wrong bear because there is so many of us that are awakened. And you got to also remember that it's not just LGBT rights. Right now, we also have the non-binary individuals who are also who fall, I guess, there is heterosexual and then there's everything else. Okay, there's just two, let's just put it that way. We should be called the everything else pile because it's just heterosexual and everything else because that's how it is. So there's everything else is a big everything else. So you're poking the wrong bear because now it's just a very large percentage of individuals. Yeah. And we're not staying quiet. And we're not necessarily yet to that point of violence, but we're very close to it. I mean, we're very, very close to it.
Yeah.
We've lost the respect. Let's just put it this way. We've lost the respect for authority because now it's blatant disregard for your life and your well-being. It's just blatant.
It's
So
for
we've
human
lost that
rights,
respect.
period. It's blatant disregard for human rights.
Yes. So, and for human life, just period. Because
I think that all started during COVID. I think they were able to test the waters on how value, how much they could truly value a human life based on a lot of different things, including race and gender.
well,
That's
I'll
what
be
I
honest
think.
with you. We all saw what happened with the last election. There is a rumor circulating that now most pro-choice are Democrats, right? Most pro-life are Republicans. So by all those states having these damning laws, the pro-choice are going to move to where they can have an abortion. So now that leaves that red state full red, and that entire electoral college, whatever, vote is all red. And it's what, 16 for the, because it's based on the size. It's not.
And then they're more powerful.
So, but the electoral supersedes the what you call it. So indirectly, it is rigging the elections, future elections. So there is that theory that's just circulating around there that this is how they're doing it. You're going to move out so you can have an abortion. So now we remove your vote, and now we guarantee elections. Remember, they're playing a game of chess while we're playing a game of checkers. We're moving, we're jumping like, oh, we can eat that one, we can eat that one, and they're like long-term view. They're playing for the long game. They're playing a game. We're playing two different games, and this is why we are losing.
Absolutely.
And later, and this is just women's rights, but later on, what's going to happen to gay marriage? That was, oh, no, not gay marriage, same-sex marriage.
Mm-hmm. Same-sex
marriage. So what's going to happen to those unions? Are they going to say, oh no, this is not our jurisdiction either. This is the state level. So anyone in those states, you're no longer married. Mm-hmm. So when you go to file taxes, what kind of a mess is this creating already?
Yeah. And then you get even deeper and you start talking about contraception and taking that off the table, and people starting to talk about them taking and making contraception illegal so that a woman can't even decide to, medicate her body in some way or anyone with a uterus, not just her, but anyone with a uterus, they can't make the decision to take medicine so that they don't get pregnant.
But even so, like right along with that, right?
They're talking about contraception. That's the thing, is that they're talking about contraception, but contraception is both condom and the pill. Why are they only looking at the pill as contraception? Contraception is anything that avoids a pregnancy, isn't it? Isn't that what contraception is?
Yeah.
By definition?
Yeah, you're right.
But there's
so
also,
that means if you're going to take one contraception away, you're going to take the other one away. So what is that going to be? STIs are going to be soaring. HIV is going to be soaring. Come on now.
They already are because of COVID. They're already on the rise because of COVID. We had gotten to a point where we had no new HIV transmissions amongst newborns, and now we're back up to a percentage. We had gotten to 0%, born that, statistically with HIV, and now we're back up, I think, to like 0.5% or something like that. But it's rising again, just like STIs are rising. I think gonorrhea is on the rise.
Yeah.
Chlamydia is on the rise. HIV was up there with it, but those two were on the rise quicker than HIV, just with COVID and us being so dormant. But also what I wanted to say was, birth control, yes, it's, contraceptives in let's try to avoid getting pregnant. But for a lot of people, it's not even that. There's a lot of young teenagers, a lot of adults even, that are still on birth control, even though they're not sexually active in any way, just to help regulate their hormones. It has nothing to do with safe sex or anything like that. It's hormone regulation so that they can feel like a normal being.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. So several years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis. It had me in the hospital every week. I would be hospitalized for weeks at a time because they could not get my bleeding under control. They could not, get my iron levels where they needed to be. They couldn't manage my pain. I was on dilaudid drips, and that wasn't managing the pain. It was god awful. I currently have no tubes and only one ovary. I've lost my appendix. So like I have sustained major physical trauma due to this endometriosis. And the only way that I was able to get some form of relief was through an IUD. That's technically contraception. Had I not gotten that IUD, I would probably still be in the same situation, going to the hospital, bleeding profusely, in serious medical like fashion. It was awful. What about people like us that are taking it for not just to not get pregnant? Because I mean, that's not me. I'm not the dickly person. So I don't have to worry about getting pregnant. But I still needed that contraception. I still needed that to be able to function and to take care of my kids and to pay my bills. So now I'm supposed to be in pain, bleeding through pads, through my pants, soaking through, but going to work anyway because I can't have an IUD to take care of my health? Are you kidding me? So my life is okay. It's okay for me to bleed out. It's okay, literally okay for me to bleed out because of my endometriosis, but I can't have an IUD to save my life?
Mhm.
Why? Why? You're telling me I'm not worthy. My life doesn't matter. That's what you're telling me.
Exactly. That's precisely what they're telling you. That your life does not matter because your life, you are here to serve me.
Exactly. And that's where we're at now. That's where we're at.
And now we're seeing the truth. Now we're seeing the truth. But I want to also come back to swirl around. So these things are illegal in these states. So let's say you work for a company. They send you to work in one of these states for a certain period of months. That means you're doing something illegal if you're taking that's not your permanent resident, but you're there part of the time. So what are you smoggling? How do
you get your medicine? Yeah, how do you get your medicine?
Yes.
You're right, Jeffrey. You're totally right. What happens in those situations? Are there guidelines for that too? Does the state decide? Does that mean your insurance isn't going to cover it? Like, how does this even work?
I'm looking at all the ramifications of like how we are so transit in our lives right now, and people are going to work anywhere for 3-6 months. Sometimes it's 9 months. And what are you going to do? Your prescription? What are you going to get? 9 months supply before? But then you're smuggling these drugs in. Are they going to stop you at the airport and be like, you're smuggling for other people? Oh my God, you get arrested, and they're all for you.
Right. And then we have overcrowded populations in the prison system, and it's going to get worse. And then I'm like, it really makes me wonder if they've really, truly, logically thought about this all the way through.
They haven't thought about this so well because, well, they thought about it. They want to go back to when we were, remember before the Civil War, when the Confederate, the free states, and this is what we're going to. And you see the line, the Mixie-Dixie line is being divided. It's very clearly divided. You're seeing it happening where they're going to be like, well, this is our country, so there's going to be 2 USAs. USA 1 and USA 2. That's what we're coming down to.
I'm gonna buy a damn island because I'm about to business. Like, I'm about ready to start a little compound with me and my close little people. You have to have, a blood sample to get in. Like, I'm to the point where I don't even want to be around people anymore. I'm so angry, and you just don't ever know where you're safe anymore.
It truly feels like
I don't feel safe.
No, yeah, it truly feels like a modern day Handmaid's Tale.
It does.
Well, all of these people, remember all of these people, the 3 judges that Trump appointed, because he said he was going to make sure that abortion was illegal. Remember, that was his thing. And he appointed those 3 because they were the most conservative. All of them, in their original interviews, to be confirmed for the Supreme Court, all of them said they would not touch abortion. All of them. And their recordings are there. They're public for all of us to see. They all said they would not touch it. They all went in with the agenda that they were going to dismantle it. So now we're talking about a conspiracy, a government conspiracy that started during the Trump administration.
You know, they say that with the presidential, elections and like the people who are in office and things like that, I don't remember where I heard this, but I heard it in the past and it kind of makes sense. And this is a good example. If you're saying, that this was basically Trump's agenda was to get abortions to be illegal, right? Trump's no longer in office. They would say, the saying that I heard was that what you're seeing with the current person in office is actually the acts of the president before them.
Sure.
And it's because it takes so long for things to process that you're not actually seeing the results of that last president until this new president steps in. So really, everything that we saw from Trump, well, I'm sure a lot of it was him, but it's also questionable of what it was that was already in motion that all he did was sign off on. And then, now we have a new president in office, but you've got these things that are obviously, motivated by the last president. It begs that question of, was this already in motion prior to this presidency, or is this something that this president truly drew up? You know what I mean?
This has Trump written all over it.
And I agree, but just the perspective of, okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
It does. They start to lay that foundation. That foundation just kind of transfers over, but that legwork is already done during their presidency, and then it's hopefully, it's seen through to fruition going forward. But I think it's very ironic that all of this shit is happening. We still have, these other things coming down the pike that could get changed at any moment. But then I see flags all around the place for Trump 2024. And I'm like, oh,
he's running again. He's running again.
Yeah. Isn't that convenient that all of this stuff is coming down the pike and coming down the woodwork at the exact time that he's going to start running again? It just, to me, feels very planned and calculated.
He said he wanted 2 terms. He's not going to win. I know that for a fact, but he's going to.
But we said that the first time.
No, he's not going to win.
The first time he shouldn't have won. So I have no faith.
No, he's not going to have 2 terms. No president is going to have 2 terms from here on out. We're gonna have a Republican, but he's not going to win the nomination. That's what it is. But he's going to be a shit show. He's not going to win the nomination, but he's going to be a shit show campaigning.
I think not enough people realize that, the acts that are happening now are that of the president before. I think not enough people realize that. So now they're seeing, under Biden, all of these things are happening. Maybe Trump wasn't so bad.
Yes.
So I agree.
Yeah, but he's totally not. But it wasn't. But we know that Trump lined us up so that it could happen. Yeah. So that it was possible.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, and I'm scared. And I feel
we would be idiots to think that it was this current administration. I would have to say, I am very upset at POTUS and very upset at Kamala because they've done jack shit. I really had high hopes. I had high hopes for a lot of things. They've done a lot of nothing. But again, I do not know how much they had to clean up that we don't see. Because there's always that cleanup crew that you know what I mean? Like when you go into a new office or you come into a new position, you always have to clean out that other person's desk. And you know how much of that takes about a week to clean up, and you're looking at systems and you're like, this makes no sense to me. And you're redoing. So that takes a while in a new job. So I can just imagine what he left for them. So, yeah, but in terms of publicly, they haven't done jack shit in my eyes. But I don't know how much they had to clean up and put back in order, because he probably was running out shenanigans, kind of like shits and the giggles, kind of. Well,
and this has definitely been a long time coming. There's no way that all of this could have been orchestrated and handled and passed down since Biden's been in administration. There's too many details, too many nuances. This has been bubbling for a while, and now, because of the last administration, we were set up for this to happen the way that it did. And that to me makes me want to look at other countries to reside in. I'm I'm terrified for myself as a queer, female presenting individual, as someone who has a uterus. I'm scared for, my partner being, non-binary and under the trans umbrella. I'm scared for all of us being people of color. There are so many things that now I am terrified about.
I won't even, I'm talking about, I'm getting my name changed and stuff like that to, really truly match my identity and, getting all that legal stuff taken care of, but I'm not changing my gender marker. And I've chosen to not change my gender marker because I'm honestly afraid of the future of our country. And I'm scared that by me putting a different gender marker on my license, that it's going to put me in this odd category of people where it feels like we're regressing in time, right? So let's think of history, and let's think of history and alternate genders or people who are of trans experience or anything like that. It was, everyone had to be secretive and closed off, and so I almost feel like by taking on that gender marker, sadly to say, that I'm putting a target on my back for something that may happen in the future, to where I might get set aside differently than just just someone who has the general male or female marker. I also know that a lot of people have encountered issues where they're just like, well, I don't know what to do with X because my form doesn't have an X on it. So which are you? Like, you still have to what's the word for it? Like, conform to whatever it is that it's being offered, because even though you have that gender marker and we're allowed to use it, it doesn't mean that it's actually accepted everywhere it is that you're using it. So I can see myself having issues, especially medically, if I have an X on my thing and I'm in a state that doesn't truly recognize the non-binary, gender non-conforming, category of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's no continuity. There's no continuity across the board. And now this particular,
I thought
the Supreme Court did, it made even less continuity, because now you've got states all over the place deciding and doing whatever the heck they want. It's madness.
Well, I'm just thinking, I'm a very much of a common sense kind of person. And I think that's what's really lacking in the world. But I thought that once you medically adopt a certain, let's just say, a certain way of speaking and talking and addressing individuals, that it creates mental health issues. It creates all these other byproducts. So this is why we're changing our policies, where we are addressing individuals the way they want to be addressed based on the way they feel, because we know it affects all of their being and being productive individuals. So if our medical community has adopted this as a need, as a basic need, is a need for this individual to feel whole and complete.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're all kinds of fucked up, okay?
Yes.
So if medically we have adopted it, shouldn't that automatically be a straight blanket that we have to adopt it across the board? Because to not do so is to cause trauma, to be harmful to an individual.
Yeah.
It's not, am I the only one making sense here, or is this common sense making sense, or am I not making any sense?
No, you're making perfect sense, Jeffrey. You're making perfect sense. I think the thing that's really fucked up about all of this is those idiots that are sitting there making these decisions still think that people that are trans, it's a choice. That people that are gay or lesbian or bisexual or transgender, that this is a choice. They still think that we choose. And that's why it drives me nuts when people say, well, anyone can choose to do anything they want, or you can choose to love whoever you want. I accept your choice. No, this is not a fucking choice. This is not a choice. This my gender identity, my sexual orientation, these are not choices. This is who I am at the end of the day. This is who I am. This is who Marz is. This is who Jeffrey is. This is who we are. But now you're saying that we're not.
Is not valid. You're not valid. We're not acknowledging who you are.
That makes me so sick. I have been sick to my stomach for days.
That is
I've been
disrespectful
right?
to any individual. It's like you telling me this is my name, and I'm saying, no, that's not who you are.
right.
You are going to be called Julie. You are Julie to me. You
Right.
can call yourself that as much as you want, but you're Julie to me. That's how I see you.
Yes. Like, are you kidding me? But
It's just
okay,
like,
but no, but we can still do Viagra, right? Like y'all can still take Viagra, you can still get hard-ons, you can still fuck whoever and do whatever. You can still do all the
You
things
can-
with a penis. You
you can
straight
still promote
white
sex.
men, you straight white men can do literally whatever the fuck you want. Whatever you want.
Why don't we give them all a vasectomy? That is a way to avoid all pregnancies.
Done. If we're not
You
allowed,
get a vasectomy that is reversible. All vasectomies,
They're
you can make it
reversible, right?
reversible. When you're ready to have children, you're ready to produce them, then there we go.
there we go.
I mean, I think it's equal just with all the, with all the damage that a woman's body goes through when giving birth. Why not, contribute some of it to the man?
It's very it's non-invasive. It's very simple. My brother got it done. He got the permanent one because he has 2 children, but he got it done. It was simple, done. He was up and walking and running and doing everything like normal in hours. It wasn't even all that, you know what I mean? He was like a little discomfort, but nothing major.
What's crazy?
It doesn't even take a day out of work. You don't even need a day out of work.
Yeah.
What's crazy is they would rather, right, conservatives or like the general people who are not of our LGBTQ community, who are not allies, right? It's crazy because their first response, and I got this even just from my aunt, who has come a long way in her support with me and for me and stuff like that. But in the beginning, it was, well, if you don't like men, if you don't see yourself being with men and that's not who you're attracted to, then you shouldn't be with anyone. Because, God intended it to be man and woman. So I asked her, I was like, okay, so what you're telling me is you as a straight person can choose to be with whoever you want to be as long as they're male. But because I don't want to be with a male, cannot choose who I want to be with. In fact, I actually have to choose to be alone. I don't know anyone who would choose that other than if it's part of their sexual identity. Like, I just don't get it. Because there are people who are, asexual, you know what I mean? It's just like sex is not.
Asexual, aromantic. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And sex is just not the motive. It's just not there. It's the relationship, the passion, things like that. But, it doesn't always have to be a sexual relationship because some people don't like that. But it baffles me why, like, take a step back for a second.
You're not allowed to love.
You're really recommending for someone to spend the rest of their life alone because they happen to like the opposite sex. I don't understand. Or because they do not feel like they were born in the right body, so they should spend the rest of their life alone. That's fucked up.
And then this is going to cause so many mental health issues, and our nation already has shitty insurance and they don't take mental health seriously. So then you're going to deal with more people dealing with drug use on the streets, buying things, dying on the streets, trying to medicate. It's just, there's so much wrong with
and what's shitty is they're aware, right? Like, we have all these statistics about the fact that, like, especially for those of us using varying pronouns or of the trans experience, we have all these statistics on mental health and how it bears a positive effect on mental health if you actually honor that person's name and pronouns the way that they're asking you to, the way that they feel is who they are. But so that it heightens, it's a positive thing when it is used in the way when it is respected. But you're not acknowledging how negative it is when you disassemble that.
Because nobody gives a damn. Nobody cares. They don't care because it doesn't affect them. Those white hetero individuals, it does not affect them. And because it doesn't affect them and it doesn't affect their pocket, their bank account, or their ego that they love to be stroked, they don't care. They want control and they want power. And that is exactly what's happening. And because us We're broken into so many different sections. You've got the gay people, you've got the people of color, they're all over the place. We need to band together. Now we're at a place where we need to band together because, like Jeffrey said, we are the majority. If we band together, we are the majority. We are not the minority. And if we stop fighting against each other. Stop fighting against each other. Let's just all be together in this.
But I feel like that's what they're fueling. That's what they're fueling, is to make it so that they keep throwing wrenches in all these different directions. As soon as we start to get unified, as soon as we start to get on the same page, such as the Black Lives Matter movement, which was a national, international movement.
Yes, it was a global movement.
It was it was literally a global movement. I remember seeing just like protests in different demonstrations and stuff, literally all over the world, where millions of people showed up. Like, and that's millions of people. Not all of them were of that experience. But they stand up for the human right to be who you are and identify the way that you feel you should, and the way that that matches you. And I just, I don't understand how it could be such a big uproar like that about that. But like, I feel like if we were to band together in that same message for this and women's rights in general, I think it could be very powerful, just like the Black Lives Matter movement was or is.
I agree.
That's going to be the most powerful thing that we can do, is when we band together and say, hey, we're not here because of reproductive rights. We're not here for LGBTQ rights. We're not here for Black Lives Matter. We're here for human rights.
Human rights.
These are human rights that we're all entitled to. All of these are all basic human rights.
And they're being jeopardized. They're being jeopardized, and they're being taken right out from under us.
If we band together in that one, if we came in that uniform, one track mind, these are human rights, and you cannot take these away from us.
Yes.
Then there won't be no argument. You can't defeat us because we're not fighting against each other. Because they're standing over there waiting. Oh, we're gonna let them defeat each other, and then all we have to do is fight like 5 or 10. There are 100, but they're gonna beat each other up, and then there's only gonna be 10 of them. So 10, we can take 10 out very easily. But that's what they do. But that's what they're waiting for.
Because I strongly encourage people to start banding together. Put your differences aside, put your likes and dislikes aside, and look at the bigger picture. It doesn't matter if you may not technically agree with LGBTQ individuals. It doesn't matter whether you agree with abortion or not abortion. It doesn't matter if you like people of color. What's happening basically is this fact of human rights. Like Jeffrey said, they're taken away. We are all human at the end of the day. And our rights are being taken away. They are literally being stripped from us every moment of every second of every day. So I don't care who you like, who you don't like. I know one thing that you all like is your freedom.
Yes.
Your rights, your basic human rights is something we all agree upon. We all have that in common. So can we all just focus on that piece? Please, just focus on the piece of human rights, whatever that looks like, and fucking fight.
Yes, because today is women's rights. Tomorrow is LGBTQ, and it's just one after another. They're just doing it piece by piece.
They started with our right to leave the house 2 summers ago.
Yes.
They started with that, and during COVID, and actually bringing out military personnel to shoot rubber bullets at people who are out on their front stoop, to make sure that they're inside. That's when it started. That's when our rights started being taken away, is when they started being able to tell us what to do, even if we were just outside breathing our own air with no one involved.
Exactly.
And then now, and then they want to, and then the Black Lives Matter movement, right? And then they're just like, oh, well, the part of that movement was, we're human. Humans deserve the right to live, no matter your color. Right now, we're on to women's rights. Women's rights. This is I mean, I know it's bigger than women's rights, but let's talk about it as women's rights. Women, all women. There is no color associated with this one. Just like with COVID, there was no color associated with it. And they still took control and said, this is what you need to do, even though we can't control that. And so now women's rights are being taken and they're being controlled.
Yeah.
And like you said, Jeffrey, like what's next? The LGBTQ rights? You know, they're trampling on all of our rights, almost like trying to see how much they can get away with.
Yeah. And we're letting them.
Yeah.
Because we're so focused on fighting each other that we're allowing those ignorant people to win because they're banding together. They're being smart. They're being smart. They're banding together where we're fighting each other.
Well, I tell you, I marched in the march, the Pride March this year, and as I was there, I was with my colleagues from Montefiore, and it felt good to be around my colleagues. But I was like, I have nothing to prove here. I really would wish that this was like we had turned the Pride March into the women's right. Because we're all advocates. At the end of the day, if we all band together and say, well, this is the right that's really being affected, right now, ours is protected, but ours is just right behind in the pipeline. It's just the second one, it's right behind. This one is being affected. Let's turn this into, it's a Pride March, but it's a protest for women's reproductive rights. If we had done something like that, that would have been monumental.
Yeah.
I wish we had done something because I would much have rather have been there for that cause than I have nothing to prove. You know what I mean? I was out, I've been out, everyone knows it, family, everything. I prove it, I have nothing to prove when it comes to my LGBTQ. And our rights are right now they're in jeopardy. They're in jeopardy because of I see beyond what's happening right now, but they're not in immediate danger.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why not? We are advocates for human rights.
Yes.
We're not advocates for one cause.
Exactly.
Because I'm going to ban about this. I'm going to ban about the environment and us and the carbon print that we're leaving on here because we are depleting this earth. This earth is sick. The earth is sick. Look at the summers we're having, the falls we're having. Yes, but right now, that can wait, that's on the back burner, but it's still on my back burner. Right now is what's imminent. What's the imminent threat is right now women's rights. And this is what we need to realize, that we are human rights activists. Human rights.
Yes, absolutely.
It doesn't matter where the injustice is happening, it's happening. And we cannot just stand there and look and complain here and have this chat there and yada yada yada. That's all those are all feathers flopping in the wind. That's nothing.
Yeah, we need concrete. We don't need feathers.
No, we need to recognize that we're fighting for humanity.
Absolutely.
It is our humanity that's being stripped away from us. Yeah. Our dignity to be human beings.
Yes.
How does that feel when your dignity is taken from you?
Yes.
I mean, this is what I'm telling you, the viewers. How does it feel to have your dignity taken from you? You know that feeling?
If anyone has ever taken care of a sick family member or person, days before they unfortunately passed, they might have some perspective on that.
I mean, like, I cared for my grandmother who was bedbound at the end. With me was the only person that she did not feel uncomfortable changing her diaper because we had that kind of closeness. And she understood that I understand, Grandma, you just can't. But with everyone else, she feels so uncomfortable having her diaper changed. It was like, and she was stiffen up because her dignity of being a self-sustaining adult, her mind was still conscious, her body just couldn't do the operation. And that's humiliating to a person. So this is what they're doing. They're humiliating us and taking our dignity away.
They are.
So if you are willing to stand and like just watch it happen, because after women, it'll be the next group and the next group and the next group and the next group until all groups are eradicated and you're all doing what I say, because it's what we said from the beginning. We're in
We bounce
control.
back in time.
I agree. But I just don't, like Jeffrey was saying, we were talking about it, and talking about it is great. Like, we have to start there. But please do not come up to me and complain about human rights. Don't complain to me about reproductive rights. Don't complain to me about LGBTQ plus rights. Don't tell me how horrible this is and how scary this is if you're not willing to do something about it. If you're not willing to sign those bills, if you're not willing to sign the petitions, if you're not willing to send the letters and to march, I don't want to hear it, because that tells me that you really don't feel as bad as you're saying that you feel about this happening. Because if you felt as bad as you say you did, then you'd be sending the letters. You'd be marching. You'd be a true ally. Look up what a true ally is, because an ally isn't just someone that walks with the million men that are walking for Black people.
Right.
They actually advocate for Black people. They advocate, they fight, they stand up for people when they're misgendered or their pronouns are not used correctly. They correct people. They stand up. They do something. Fucking do something. It's time, y'all.
If you see it happening, if you see something, you do something about it, because how can you stand there and say you are, oh yeah, I support it, and I'm gonna put a little heart next to your little post, and I'm not gonna share it.
Bullshit.
I'm not gonna share that shit. Share it so if the message goes beyond. Don't just like it.
Yeah.
Show that you are a true ally. And I mean, like with Housing Works, we went to, before this was even, this was back in November. We went to Washington. There was a march there for women's reproductive rights. A handful of us were there. Handful. I mean, and we bused people there. Lunch was provided. A handful.
That's all it took. That's all it took.
And it was just a little handful that went when we had more than enough buses for everyone. And where are you?
Where are you?
Where are you?
Show up. Show up. Show up.
You don't show up, because to be an advocate, you have to inconvenience them, because otherwise they're not gonna listen.
Yes.
You can protest all you want from online. And I mean, I love the online because it reaches out a broader audience. I love it. But advocacy is in person. Do you think the march, if it didn't disrupt Fifth Avenue, they would listen? No, but it disrupted Fifth Avenue. All traffic was just how do you get from east to west? All these people marching on the street. That's what advocacy does. It disrupts the system. So they pay attention, or they come to the table and negotiate, because they're not negotiating.
Exactly, Jeffrey. And that's what this boils down to. And that's why we have these conversations. You were talking about, people posting stuff and, them hearting it, but then not sharing it. But and they would say, I don't want anyone to think this or think that or feel uncomfortable. But you know what? It's time to start getting uncomfortable. It's time to start creating that discomfort. That's why we have these conversations that we have. That's why they're raw. That's why they're unfiltered. That's why they're unscripted. That's why we're balls to the wall. We say what we need to say to get the message out there, because that is how change starts, by really pushing those boundaries, by making people uncomfortable, because it makes them think. And I always like to use the analogy of a diamond. A diamond is really just coal until the pressure hits it. The pressure is what causes the diamond. We need to cause pressure. We need to make people uncomfortable. We need to have more of these conversations. So, I appreciate Jeffrey for being a part of this conversation. I always love having conversations with Marz. I truly urge anyone, and we'll provide Jeffrey's contact information. I urge you to reach out. I urge you to start making plans. I urge you to attend events. We need to start making change. So on our site, we are going to have posts with resources. Please post on our site any resources that you have for any individuals. If you have any marches, any protests, any petitions, anything, put it on our page and share that shit so that people can start signing and being present and there. We have to start affecting change, and it's got to start with those uncomfortable conversations. So I appreciate you so much, Jeffrey, for being here, having this conversation.
I want to say thank you. And yes, become comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's just the bottom line, because it's not comfortable. Advocacy is not comfortable.
No.
Otherwise, everybody would do it.
Exactly. And it's not for the faint-hearted, but together we can lean on one another and it won't feel so overwhelming because we'll all have each other. Right now, it feels so big because it feels like we're all so isolated. But if we really band together, it could be such a beautiful thing. It's time. It's time. So I'm ready. I know Jeffrey's ready. I know Marz is ready. I know our viewers are ready. So let us know, if there's places in New York, places in North Carolina, all across the globe, share that shit. And we will be here to send that message out, send that information out, and get involved as much as we possibly can and bring more of these uncomfortable conversations.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely. I'm ready to stand in front of you, in front of the Capitol, their parking lot. They can't leave. I will sleep. I will lay down right there. You're gonna run me over?
Come on, I'm
the system.
I'm in Albany. Come on, you can stay with me. We can march down to the Capitol together. I'm right by the train station. Come on.
Yeah.
Chain ourselves together, handcuff ourselves together. How are you going to get us out? You know what I mean? This is the kind of this advocacy.
I know the advocates here and the activists here have been at the state capitol a few times, whether it be during the week, on the weekends, or whatever. But I was invited to one of the marches, but unfortunately, I worked the normal 8 to 5, and it was at 10 a.m., so I couldn't go. But I honestly, if I'm being real with everybody right now, I don't know how anyone is comfortable right now. Once these, with what's happening, okay, fine, COVID, it happens to all of us, but now with women's rights, it's so pinpointed and it's so targeted that if anyone has a female or someone who identifies as a woman that is affected by this, I don't understand how anyone could be comfortable. And this means your wives, your kids, your grandkids who are all female. It means that their rights to protect themselves in certain ways are being taken away. I don't know how anyone could be comfortable with that.
But I mean, we all came out of a woman's body. I don't know about you, but I came out of a woman's body.
You're right.
I mean,
yeah.
And I
so
agree.
Maybe we should have a little bit more respect.
Yes.
For that body. Maybe we should take a little bit more time to actually ask that individual what they want to happen to their body, instead of allowing someone who has nothing to do with their body to decide what happens to it. This to me seems very dangerous. It seems very calculated. It seems very malicious, and it seems like it's going to get a lot better before it gets worse.
And babe, honestly, I have felt more passionate about this just thinking about you and what you do with being a doula, and hearing how much, hearing how you talk to your clients and how you talk to, the people that you serve, and just when you're talking to that parent, who is having the child, you're talking to them and saying, okay, this is your birth plan. Let's make it together so that I make sure that I'm advocating for you in all the ways that you need advocating for, whether that be pain meds, whether that be position, whether that be a doctor or a nurse, or whatever. I consistently hear you trying to essentially help them custom make their birth plan so that they feel as though they're in the most control of that situation that is a traumatic experience on the body. No matter how beautiful it is to bring life into this world, it puts trauma on the body. And so I have a lot more almost respect for women and reproductive, the reproductive system, if you will, just from hearing you and the dialogue that you've had with your clients and how much you truly care about their wishes and what it is that they want. So, she'll be in the hospital with them, while they're birthing. And if the doctor's trying to push pain meds and her patient says, no, I really want to try to do this naturally, she's going to advocate for them to do it naturally, unless there's some other medical reason that would make it so that she would suggest differently. But it's so important to have her as an advocate even for that person, because when they're in that traumatic experience, they can't think of anything but the pain.
They're not thinking. Come on.
Right. And so I feel like there's, you know, there has to be someone to advocate there, you know, for these people at all times. You know, it's
absolutely.
Oh.
I agree. So I do want to put it out there, you know, that, you know, doing the doula work that I do and being a doula for over 15 years, you know, we offer full spectrum doula services. So what that means is really any transition of life, whether it's fertility, whether it's birth, whether it's abortion, whether it's death, they're all huge transitions and they all need support in different ways. So it's awesome, actually. My agency specializes in people in the LGBTQ community and people of color and allies, because there's special training designed, because those are those marginalized communities. Those are the communities that are negatively impacted by the medical community. They are the people that do die in childbirth far more frequently. So you have agencies like mine where we have trained professionals that go through the training to be able to assist. They know what those statistics look like. So yeah, hell yeah, I'm going to be in there making people uncomfortable if I feel like someone is not being treated accurately, or that their wishes are not being respected, or that they're not being heard. I don't have any problem making anyone uncomfortable when it comes to someone's rights to decide what happens to their body. And I will continue to do that to the day I die, no matter how uncomfortable or how scary those situations are. Because at the end of the day, this is bigger than me.
Yes. And
this
is just saying, I care about you. I respect you as a human being.
Exactly.
And your rights are just as important as my rights. I don't have to agree with your rights. I don't even have to agree with your pronouns, your whatever. I don't have to even like it, but I respect it.
Exactly.
And that, because I respect you as a human being. And
because
I want
at the end of the day,
receive that same respect back.
Yeah.
And I want that same respect back with whatever I want to be called.
Yeah.
You know, or however I want to be referred to.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we bleed red. At the end of the day, we are all human. We are all one. We are all connected. And I feel like the sooner we get our heads out of our asses and truly acknowledge that and recognize that and realize how powerful we actually are, we can take so much control back and get things back to where they need to be, where we don't have that fear, where we don't have those scared girls that have been raped by family members and now they're pregnant and they don't know what to do, or the individuals that know that by giving birth they're putting their life at risk, but now they can't, you know, they can't terminate their pregnancy, so they have to risk their own life. There's so many people that this is affecting. So please check on people, do temperature checks, talk to people, let them know that you have an open door policy. And I'm going to put this out there. If anyone needs to go to a special state to go camping for a while and they need childcare, please let me know if you happen to need childcare or support going on that vacation for a while, and however long it needs to take for you to do that in those specific states. I've got your back.
And if you guys, if any woman needs a place to stay for 3 nights while you get your procedure done, please reach out. We have people that will house you. I will definitely house you for 3 nights, get you back, and at least you don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep for those 3 days that you have to get yourself back to normal. We need to open our doors and our hearts. Basically, it's opening your heart to a person who doesn't have all these means. They're putting barriers in the meantime.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. So if you are one of us and you will open your doors to someone who needs that, if you are someone who, you know, would be able to help someone pay for the procedure who wouldn't be able to otherwise, because now we know that it's not covered for anything, please let us know. Contact us directly, post on our page. Fuck.
Maybe we should start.
Uh-oh. I think her phone just died.
Her phone just died? Okay, we should probably also start a GoFundMe for any of those medical needs, just like a big GoFundMe for any and all of those needs. I believe since you are Uncharted Conversations, Uncharted GoFundMe for women's reproductive rights, you just have to submit a letter saying, I need transportation, and we will,
Yeah, we'll definitely put that together. Being someone who is in the capital region of New York, if you're anyone who does want to organize or something like that, and you're looking for, more allies, more people, let me know. I know I do work a typical 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, so it's a little harder to get me, out there during the week, but by all means, if you want to do something on the weekend, or even I can still help organize, even if I can't fully attend. So, by all means, feel free to reach out. But I'm gonna go ahead and close this out for now,
Yes.
while my dog chokes in the background.
I think we shared the passion. We are ready to band together and get something started, and then we just need someone for all of you to just whatever you can. You don't have to go out of your way, but whatever you feel comfortable with. If it's just $5 donation or whatever it is, or allowing somebody in your place, whatever you feel comfortable. We're not here to make you feel threatened, but do something. Share a post. Simple as that.
Everybody has like a sister, a daughter, a brother, you know what I mean? Like everyone has, I feel like everyone has to have some, kind of female influence, if you will, within their lives that needs standing up for right now. Because like we've said before in this whole conversation, it's human rights that are being stripped away and taken from us. And it started with COVID. This isn't the first part. And it's been happening in history. But honestly, I think COVID was the biggest, most obvious turn of that control that they're trying to have over us. So, oh, look, Melissa's back. I think her phone died.
Then we can probably say goodbye.
Yes, so we could go ahead and close out. But
Sorry.
I'm assuming your phone died.
No, it did a reset. I'm so sorry. I was like, damn it, I was right in the middle of something. Anyhow.
I was right in the middle of a GoFundMe. We're gonna start a GoFundMe so that you guys can take applications of people who need transportation, a bus ticket. It may be 8 hours, honey, but it can't be a flight, but because we want to help as many people as possible. But the bus ride and
train,
hopefully we'll find accommodations here wherever you need. New York is one of the states that is protecting reproductive rights.
I'm in upstate New York. Jeffrey's in New York City, and Melissa's in North Carolina.
We have other people in other states that are also willing to step in and help, in California, in Vermont, in Florida. We have lots of people all over the place. So please, please, please reach out to us. And I think a GoFundMe is a fantastic idea.
Yes. This is the way we get the ball rolling. Just get the ball rolling.
Yes, Jeffrey, we appreciate you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I know I'm a male, but I'm a very, come on, my rights, human rights.
You're the perfect example of an ally and a human rights activist.
Exactly, and we appreciate you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having this conversation.
So can you tell our viewers where they can find more information out about you?
You can find me on Instagram. I am Jeffery.Feliz, FELIZYBES _ no, I'm sorry, that's incorrect. I am Just JUST _ Jeffery _ JS. On Instagram, I am Leo, LEO, Donato. On Facebook, those are my biggest platforms. And I'm Leo Donato, all one word, XXX on Twitter. I'm sure it will be in the description box below. But yeah, you can most certainly reach out, DM me. It might take me a week, so it might take me a week to get to your DM, but I read all of my DMs. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And if anyone is in the Albany area, I know me and Melissa do these all the time, but I don't know if we've actually put our contact information out there before. So for the sake of this one, I am from the HIV Stops With Me campaign. I am one of the spokesmodels, but you can reach me at mars.a27@outlook.com. I'm also Marz530 on Instagram, or just Marz Almiron in Facebook. So if anyone wants to, connect or look me up or anything and wants to contribute to this, GoFundMe and the cause that we're trying to really bring attention to, please don't hesitate to reach out.
And my email address, in case anyone wants to reach out to me directly in regards to doula support, in whatever fashion, getting transportation, housing, all of those resources, you can email me at alwayszen. So always, ZEN143@gmail.com.
Yep.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Right.
Well, we appreciate everyone for watching. We appreciate you, Jeffrey, for being a part of this amazing discussion. And we look forward to having more uncomfortable conversations with you soon.
Yes.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Love and light.
Love and light. Bye-bye.